What is a movie that everyone has seen except you? Schindler's List. I suspect it'll make me feel terrible. It will. I feel it's one you see if only one time in your life. Steven Spielberg, while making it, because the content is so rough, would call up Robin Williams and ask him to tell him a joke. I've watched it half a dozen times. It's so depressing but also such an incredible film. And The Pianist along the same vein. The Pianist is really great. I remember one of my French teachers in middle school would play the French dub for us in class. She's no longer with us, but she was a very soft-spoken, kind lady and the movie always reminds me of her. Watched that movie one time and it was utterly heartbreaking. I don't think I can watch it again. Guess my answer to OP's question is The Pianist. It was such a good movie, but then I read about Roman P and I can't look at his stuff in the same way. The guy almost died in the Holocaust. Although the film is not about Roman's own story, it's based on another person's true survival story. It's a form of respect to watch it for the survivor's sake, and also for the effort the actors and crew put into it. Citizen Kane. What drew me in is two things. One, it's widely thought to be the greatest American film ever made. Two, I am a lifetime student of motion pictures, so I am knowledgeable about the state of movies back then, so I know why the movie is really as great as people say. But, if you only like watching movies post-2000, nothing wrong with that at all, it will seem alien in a way. Slow scenes, different acting, innovations that you won't catch, accents that don't really exist in movies anymore, etc. So, the only people who really enjoy it watch a ton of B&W movies and read about movie history. If that isn't your thing, then it's definitely a waste of your time. My first college roommate was older and taught film theory. We rented a duplex and would have movie nights. He would run them on a projector on a 10-foot screen in the basement. There used to be a thriving black market in 16mm prints that were sold through an underground newspaper called The Big Reel. We would have a cartoon, usually the 40s-era band Warner Brothers ones, a short, a B feature and a main feature. I can tell you more about silent Soviet-era film than any average person should know. Seeing CK sent me down a rabbit hole of Joseph Cotten films. Heavily dependent on what year this was, your roommate sounds like he could be very interesting/entertaining or absolutely unbearable. What was his mustache situation? The Room. I feel I have seen enough of it in clips on YouTube, and I feel my movie watching time is precious that I'm not going to waste it watching a movie I understand to be so bad it's good. That's one of the movies I'm convinced that far more people talk about than have actually seen all the way through. I think the film about the making of that film got more actual watchers. Took me a bit to figure out The Room and Room are not the same thing in this thread. I have found a second one I have not seen now. I kind of forgot The Room and the movie about The Room existed. I can't count how many times I've seen The Room by now, but since 2009 it's been 20 or so. I still remember my reaction back in '09 when it aired on Adult Swim. Pure confusion, until I realized it was April Fool's Day. Also being able to meet Tommy Wiseau. A highlight of my life. The guy is way shorter in person. I've only seen it with the riff tracks and that made it fun for me. Watching The Room, as is, seems awful. I think the stories surrounding Tommy Wiseau makes The Room at least an interesting watch in a sense. Nobody knows when or where he was born. He sold jeans when coming to America, but somehow ended up selling real estate making a fortune. And as a wannabe filmmaker, I can somewhat understand that desire to be regarded as a genius but also not understanding how something you make ends up being poorly received. He filmed the movie using 2 cameras, one digital and one film because it was something nobody has done before. He recreated a set design which was identical to the walls outside of the studio. Like at some level he is just so baffling, he has some entertainment value. I think if you watch the James Franco movie afterwards, I think you won't consider it a wasted time. The enjoyment comes from the hilarity of how bad it is, which makes it very worth watching if you're into that kind of humor. Great to watch with buddies after smoking some weed. It's just bad, not funny bad or entertainingly bad. It is considered one of the worst movies ever made. The amount of strangeness surrounding its creator, who was homeless but suddenly had the money to completely make it, and no one knows where he came from exactly, on the other hand. I think it's hilarious, actually. Always cheers me up when I'm feeling a little down. There are also still sold-out screenings of it, so I think it obviously qualifies as entertainingly bad. Sound of Music. I'm Gen X and I feel everyone my age has seen this, as it was a movie that was on television often growing up, and while I'm familiar with the story and music, I have never seen the movie in its entirety. The Sound of Music is one of my favorite comfort movies. It was always on in the background when I was a kid. I get it though, the movie moves very slowly, barely moves the plot along, and has a lot of singing and dance numbers. Even some of the songs don't have much to do with the plot, has almost no action until the last 10 to 20 minutes when they're trying to escape the Nazis. Never saw it either, but somehow still know the songs and about the lonely goat herder. This was force-fed to me as a child, sort of passively, always on in the background. I never make it past the first act. Same, when it was on TV I'd make it about halfway then fall asleep, so to me it was always a quaint musical about a nun and a rich guy falling in love. I saw the stage musical a few years ago and got shocked when the lights suddenly turned red and Nazis marched out. Haha, right. That's totally all the story is about. This was me with Dirty Dancing. Weird, I know, but two of my cousins were gymnasts and dancers and they were obsessed with the movie and always had it on at our granny's house. It ended up becoming a thing for me that I just refused to watch it, until I caved about 2 years ago. Man, I was really wrong about it and feel dumb for refusing to actually watch it for so many years. Jurassic Park. That's a movie that still stands up well after all this time, even the special effects. For me, the less CGI a movie uses and the more they do animatronics and old-school movie magic, the better. I feel like those films hold up so much better because CGI outdated just looks silly. Agree, but the CGI in Jurassic Park is such good quality that the vast majority of it doesn't look silly and comes off pretty well. A blend of traditional and CGI effects always looks best, which is one of the things that makes the original JP such a monumental achievement. There's something real there that not only looks great, but also for the actors to connect and react to. Then, any imperfections are smoothed out with CG. It really makes that movie look like it could have been made at any point in recent times. Bodyguard or Dirty Dancing. I love them both, but they are very sentimental and extreme feminine films. Dirty Dancing is a coming-of-age teenage girl film, and Bodyguard is a die-hard romantic film, so if you're not soppy like that, you won't like them. Dirty Dancing is my favorite movie. Give it a chance if you have some time or if it doesn't sound like your thing. Cool. I've seen parts of The Bodyguard, but it never held my interest the way it does others. Seen them both once. That was enough. I've never seen The Bodyguard because it looked dumb and I don't care for Kevin Costner. Dances with Wolves is an exception. The original Dirty Dancing is a classic. You've got to watch it at least once. You may not love it, but you will be entertained for an hour and a half. As a casual Costner enjoyer, Bodyguard is decent. I suspect it might feel a bit old school now. Blade Runner 2049. I see so many memes using stills from that movie and how the character Ryan Gosling plays is so relatable, but I've just not seen it. If you like cinematography and slow build with some sci-fi, it's good. But I can understand how people who don't like the genre to find it boring. Oh, I'm definitely interested in the genre. I love the original. I just haven't gotten around to watching it, I guess. Definitely should. Top 3 movies for me at least. The Passion of the Christ, assuming that everyone is a Christian. I don't care how good this movie is. Mel Gibson was involved in its production. For that reason alone, I refuse to watch it. I have heard many complain that it's basically a torture movie. And whether Christian or not, I don't know why anyone would want to watch it for fun. I wasn't even allowed to watch it when my church did a viewing. My dad told me I knew the story, I didn't need to see it to understand the brutality. The Matrix. Every time someone learns that I've never seen it, they always tell me I need to watch it. So now I add a year to how long I postpone watching it for every time someone tells me I need to watch it. I'll be 56 by the time I watch it. Make it 57, because you'll need to watch it. Yeah, you missed the boat on this one. It used never-before-seen cinematography techniques and it just blew everyone's minds. It's been copied and parroted to death now, and if you were to watch it now, most of its impact will have been lost. It's still my favorite movie of all time, but I stopped recommending it a long time ago. Shrek. Weird that this one shocked me the most. Same, I did the wide eyes of shock when I read this. I think it's 'cause not only is it popular, it's actually just an all-round good movie. It's happy, sad, funny, not too long, has simple underlying life principles it gets across, and has a solid soundtrack. It doesn't try to be anything more than that and is accessible to pretty much everyone. It's not intense, scary, or requires a film degree to understand. Not a movie, but I've never watched an episode of Game of Thrones. The way it ended, I honestly don't recommend it anymore. Was a big fan and it seriously ended so bad it retroactively ruined the entire series. Unless you're curious to see a show go from one of the best series of all time to one of the worst, you don't have to watch it. Please like and subscribe for more daily content.